Welcome to the Epic Stories, a sleep channel where history drifts through the ages, guiding you into calm, reflective rest. Did you know that the precise planning of ancient cities in India rivaled or surpassed urban design found in Mesopotamia? Yet they left behind no monuments to glorified rulers. The slow accumulation of centuries allows us to observe the earliest, most structured phase of human settlement in the Indian subcontinent. This is the period defined by the Indus Valley civilization, a profound administrative achievement that materialized not in the Fertile Crescent, but across the vast plains watered by the Indus River and its tributaries. It is a story of quiet, measured order established between approximately 3,300 BCE and 1300 BCE. The core identity of the Harappan culture, named after the site of Harappa, was standardization and functional efficiency. Unlike the dramatic ziggurats of Sumer or the colossal tombs of Egypt, the focus here was on communal infrastructure. The major cities, such as Mohenjo-daro, flourished between 2600 BCE and 1900 BCE. Their organization was not accidental. It was the product of deliberate, centralized planning. Streets were oriented along cardinal directions, intersecting at precise right angles to form a distinct grid pattern. The city was often divided into a western citadel, likely housing administrative or ritual functions, and a lower city for the general populace. The most telling feature of Harappan urbanism was the system of water management. Almost every dwelling, regardless of size, possessed a bathing area and a meticulously constructed system of drains that fed into the main, covered sewers running beneath the streets. This unprecedented investment in sanitation and hydraulics suggests a society where pragmatic communal well-being took precedence over individual displays of wealth or power. The building materials themselves, baked bricks standardized to a consistent ratio of 1 to 2 to 4, underscore an astonishing degree of regulatory control across a geographical area spanning over 1 million square kilometers, from the Makran coast to present-day Gujarat. The economic engine of this civilization was sophisticated long-distance trade. Harappan seals, crafted from steatite and engraved with the undeciphered Harappan script and unique animal motifs, have been recovered from sites in the Persian Gulf and Mesopotamia, confirming direct commercial links dating back to the mid-3rd millennium BC. They exported goods like carnelian beads, gold, timber, and the world's earliest evidence of cultivated cotton. The lack of discernible palatial structures or overly elaborate burials suggests a system of governance that might have been oligarchical or theocratic, focused on trade and administration rather than military expansion or dynastic succession. The civilization's persistent silence, due to the non-decipherment of its script, imposes a contemplative distance on our study, forcing us to interpret its existence purely through its physical organization. Around 1900 BCE, this structured world began its gradual dissolution. It was not a violent collapse, but a slow, decades-long process of urban decay. The grid-planned cities gave way to haphazard constructions. The standardized bricks were replaced by inferior materials, and the critical drainage systems ceased to function. The population did not vanish. Rather, they dispersed, moving eastward and southward, adapting and integrating into smaller, post-urban settlements. Possible causes are environmental, including tectonic shifts, the drying up of the Ghaggar-Hakra river system, possibly the ancient Sarasvati, or sustained climate change leading to decreased monsoon rainfall, rendering the centralized agrarian structure unsustainable. The measured decline of the Harappan world confirms that even the most efficient human systems are ultimately temporary and dependent on ecological stability. The vacuum left by the declining Harappan cities was gradually filled by a new cultural and linguistic group associated with the Vedic age. Spanning approximately 1500 BCE to 600 BC, this era is defined by the compilation and transmission of the Vedas, particularly the Rig Veda, a collection of hymns composed between 1500 BCE and 1200 BCE. These texts present a stark cultural contrast to the Harappan past. They describe a pastoral, mobile society focused on cattle, the main unit of wealth, and tribal conflicts. The early Vedic political structure was based on the Jana tribe, led by the Raja, chief, whose power was primarily military and dependent on popular assembly, the Sava and Samiti. The focus was on ritual appeasement of natural deities like Indra, war/rain, and Agni, fire, the messenger. This society, which spoke an early form of Sanskrit, slowly migrated and settled across the Punjab. A significant shift occurred around 1000 BCE, initiating the later Vedic period. This change was driven by two factors: the migration eastward into the dense forests of the Gangayamuna Doab, and the increasing use of iron technology. Iron implements allowed for the large-scale clearing of forests, transforming the fertile Gangetic plain into the new heartland of settlement, Aryavarta. Agriculture, especially rice cultivation, became the dominant economic activity, leading to more permanent settlements and larger territorial units. The later Vedic texts, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, and the Brahmanas, reflect this growth in social and political complexity. Tribal chiefdoms transitioned into early territorial states, known as the Mahajanapadas, great realms. By 600 BC, power became more institutionalized, with the king performing elaborate public rituals like the Ashvamedha to assert territorial sovereignty and claim divine sanction. Crucially, the social structure codified during this period laid the enduring foundation for Indian society, the fourfold Varna system. Though initially based somewhat on professional role, Brahmana for priests, Kshatriya for rulers/warriors, Vaishya for farmers/merchants, and Shudra for laborers, the system became increasingly hereditary and hierarchical, defined by ritual status and purity. The close of this period, around 600 BCE, saw a reaction to the escalating complexity and ritual rigidity of the Vedic religion. This intellectual environment, characterized by the philosophical speculations of the Upanishads, quietly questioned external sacrifice and emphasized internal knowledge. Concepts like Brahman, ultimate reality, Atman, the self, karma, action and consequence, and samsara, the cycle of rebirth, emerged as central tenets, setting the contemplative framework for the spiritual traditions that would soon dominate the subcontinent. Did you know that the subcontinent experienced a period of intellectual revolution, where two of the world's great religions, Buddhism and Jainism, were founded almost concurrently with the early Greek philosophers? The period spanning 600 BCE to 185 BCE is characterized by a definitive shift from tribal organization to established territorial states, coupled with a deep, internal examination of existing spiritual doctrine. It is an era of measured political consolidation and profound philosophical divergence. By 600 BCE, the Gangetic plain was dominated by 16 major territorial units, known as the Mahajanapadas, great realms. These were sophisticated kingdoms and oligarchic republics, Ganasangas, whose political rise was facilitated by the widespread use of iron, increased agricultural productivity, and the burgeoning of true urban centers along the Ganga River, such as Vaishali, Kaushambi, and Rajagraha. This urbanization created an environment where settled populations, diverse professions, and concentrated wealth provided the necessary base for sustained political authority. Of these 16 realms, the Kingdom of Magadha, located in modern-day Bihar, began its methodical and inevitable ascent. Its strategic advantages were manifold: rich iron ore deposits necessary for weapons and tools, fertile alluvial plains ensuring surplus food production, and a geographical position shielded by rivers and hills. Under a succession of strong, pragmatic dynasties, Initially the Haryanka and Shishanaga, Magadha began the slow process of military expansion and absorption of its neighbors. This expansion was not immediate, but a persistent, generational application of force and administrative acumen. Contemporaneous with this political centralization was the most significant intellectual movement in the subcontinent's history. The 6th century BCE witnessed the rise of heterodox schools, Shramana movements, which directly challenged the socio-religious dominance of the Brahmanas and the costly, ritualistic emphasis of the later Vedic tradition. The two most enduring of these movements were Jainism and Buddhism. Jainism was systematized by Vardhamana Mahavira c. 599 to 527 BC, a contemporary of the Buddha. Jain thought emphasized extreme asceticism and the principle of ahimsa, nonviolence, to an absolute degree, extending protection even to the smallest insects. The core tenet is that every object, living or non-living, possesses a soul, jiva, and liberation is achieved through the elimination of all karma, actional residue, by rigorous moral conduct, extreme self-discipline, and adherence to the three jewels: right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. The Jain community, initially focused on wandering ascetics, was often supported by the mercantile classes who found its emphasis on non-injury compatible with non-agricultural professions. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, c. 563 to 483 BC, the Buddha offered a middle path. Born into the ruling Sakya clan in the foothills of the Himalayas, the Buddha's teachings centered on the Four Noble Truths: the existence of suffering, dukkha, its cause, craving or attachment, its cessation, nirvana, and the path to its cessation, the Eightfold Path. Buddhism provided a logical, ethical framework for liberation accessible to all castes and classes, rejecting the hereditary privilege of the Brahmanas. Its organizational strength lay in the Sangha, monastic order, which facilitated the efficient transmission of doctrine across vast distances. The inherent rationality and ethical universality of the Buddha's message made it a potent force for quiet, sustained change. By 327 BCE, a significant external event briefly disrupted the political consolidation: the invasion of the Macedonian Greek ruler, Alexander the Great. Though Alexander's campaign in the Punjab was ultimately short-lived, his presence shattered the political isolation of the small kingdoms in the northwest and created a power vacuum. This instability was a precursor to the rise of the subcontinent's first true empire. The Mauryan Empire, c. 322 to 185 BCE, emerged from the ruins of Alexander's influence and the relentless expansion of Magadha. Its founder, Chandragupta Maurya, r.c. 322 to 298 BCE, capitalized on the existing Magadhan power structure and the political fragmentation of the Northwest. A pivotal moment was his treaty with the Seleucid general Seleucus I Nicator, c. 305 BC, which formalized Mauryan control over vast regions of Afghanistan and Balochistan. The empire, with its capital at Pataliputra, was managed by an unprecedentedly detailed and centralized bureaucracy, a structure partially evidenced by the political treatise, the Arthashastra, attributed to Chandragupta's minister, Chanakya, or Kaudaya. The Arthashastra is a pragmatic, cold assessment of statecraft, detailing everything from espionage and finance to warfare and civil law. The empire reached its apex under Ashoka Maurya, r.c. 268 to 232 BC. The pivotal event of his reign was the brutal, successful conquest of the kingdom of Kalinga, c. 261 BCE, on the eastern coast. The sheer scale of the resulting slaughter and deportation led to Ashoka's famous conversion to Buddhism. Ashoka utilized the vast administrative power of the state to propagate Dhamma, a pragmatic ethical code based on Buddhist principles: nonviolence, tolerance, respect for elders, and truthfulness, but distinct from strict monastic practice. Ashoka's legacy lies in his edicts, inscribed on rocks and monumental polished sandstone pillars across the empire, which represent the first tangible, widespread evidence of centralized governance in India. These edicts, written in various Prakrit dialects and occasionally Greek or Aramaic, were directives intended for his subjects, demonstrating a commitment to public welfare and justice informed by Dhamma. Ashoka dispatched Buddhist missionaries to Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, and the Hellenic kingdoms of the West, transforming Buddhism from a regional sect into a major world religion. Following Ashoka's death in 232 BCE, the empire began a slow, inevitable process of fragmentation. The vast size of the realm, the heavy burden of centralized administration, and regional challenges eventually led to the weakening of imperial control. The final blow came around 185 BCE, when the last Mauryan ruler, Brihadratha, was assassinated by his own general, Pushyamitra Shunga, who founded the Shunga dynasty. The fall of the Mauryan Empire signaled the end of the first pan-Indian political structure. The political map was now fragmented, but the Buddhist and Jain philosophical framework, established during this era, would continue to quietly shape the moral and spiritual landscape for millennia. The period from 185 BCE to 550 CE marks a transition from a single imperial structure to a mosaic of regional powers. This era is characterized by intense external contact, particularly across the Northwest, and a profound flourishing of indigenous arts, sciences, and philosophical systems, culminating in the centralized authority of the Gupta Empire. Immediately following the fragmentation of the Mauryan power base, the northern and northwestern parts of the subcontinent experienced a series of invasions and incursions. These movements were not merely destructive, they were critical conduits for trade and cultural exchange. Starting around 180 BCE, the Indo-Greeks, successors to the Hellenistic kingdoms established by Alexander's generals, established a presence in the Punjab. The most notable ruler was Menander I Milinda, who reigned around 155 to 130 BCE and became a figure of philosophical inquiry, famously recorded in the Buddhist text, the Milinda Panha, Questions of Milinda. The Indo-Greeks introduced concepts of Hellenistic coinage, portraiture, and military tactics. They were followed by the Shakas, Scythians, who dominated Western India from the 1st century BCE to the 4th century CE. Later came the Parthians, but the most significant foreign dynasty to consolidate power in the northwest were the Kushanas, who reigned from the 1st century CE to the 3rd century CE. The Kushana Empire, founded by the nomadic Yuezhi tribes, extended from Central Asia deep into the Gangetic Plains. Their dominance was centered at Purishapura, Peshawar. The most influential Kushana ruler was Kanishkai, R.C. 127 to 150 CE. Kanishk was a devout patron of Buddhism, hosting the 4th Buddhist Council in Kashmir, which solidified the theological foundations of Mahayana Buddhism. Under Kushana rule, the Gandhara school of art flourished. This style of sculpture, often depicting the Buddha in human form, synthesized Hellenistic artistic techniques, such as realistic drapery and musculature, with indigenous religious iconography. This quiet, artistic blend exemplifies the cosmopolitan nature of the Kushana state, which actively facilitated the flow of people, goods, and ideas along the silk routes linking Rome, India, and China. In the Deccan and the South, indigenous powers maintained stability and fostered extensive maritime trade. The Satavahanas, or Andhras, reigning from approximately 1st century BCE to 3rd century CE, controlled the central Deccan Plateau. Their prosperity was built on controlling the overland routes connecting the northern plains to the western ports, which conducted vigorous trade with the Roman Empire, exchanging spices, textiles, and precious stones for Roman gold coins. Their patronage of spectacular rock-cut Buddhist chaityas, prayer halls, and viharas, monasteries, such as those at Karl and Ajunta, underscores their wealth and religious tolerance. Simultaneously, the far south experienced the Sangam Age, c. 300 BCE, 300 CE, named after the Sangam or assemblies of poets in Madurai. Kingdoms like the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas governed the southern tip, engaging in direct and lucrative trade with the Roman Empire from their major ports. The literature of the Sangam period, the earliest literary tradition of South India, provides detailed, measured accounts of their social life, warfare, agriculture, and commerce. The slow re-centralization of political power in the Gangetic heartland began around 320 CE with the foundation of the Gupta Empire. This dynasty, which controlled large parts of North and Central India from approximately 320 CE to 550 CE, is conventionally designated as India's Golden Age. The consolidation began with Chandragupta I, R. 320 to 335 CE, but the empire's military and diplomatic expansion was chiefly the work of his son, Samudragupta, R. C. 335 to 375 CE. Samudragupta's achievements are chronicled in the Allahabad Pillar inscription, a measured and detailed historical record of his extensive conquests across North and South India. His rule stabilized a vast region, ensuring internal peace necessary for cultural development. The empire reached its peak under Chandragupta II, R. C. 375 to 415 CE. Unlike the Mauryans, the Gupta administrative style was less rigidly centralized. They favored a system of decentralized feudalism, allowing local rulers significant autonomy in exchange for tribute and military support. This system fostered stability without the administrative burden that contributed to the Mauryan collapse. The true significance of the Gupta era lies in its intellectual advancements, built upon centuries of stable patronage, mathematics, and astronomy. This period saw the work of Aryabhata, b. 476 CE, who accurately calculated the value of pi and explained the daily rotation of the Earth on its axis, anticipating Western discoveries by over a millennium. The decimal system and the concept of zero were formalized and systematically utilized during this time, a development of quiet but immense global consequence. Science. Scholars codified existing knowledge on medicine, Sushruta Samhita on surgery, and metalwork. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, erected during the Gupta period, stands today as a testament to their advanced metallurgical purity and rust resistance, an engineering feat not replicated in the West until the modern era. Arts and literature. Sanskrit reached its definitive form. Kalidasa, the period's foremost poet and dramatist, composed classics like Abhijnana-Sakuntala, the recognition of Shakuntala. The artistic style favored idealized, graceful forms, epitomized by the serene Buddha images of the Sarnath school and the vibrant murals of the Ajanta caves, often depicting quiet Jataka tales. The Gupta Empire's stability began to erode around the mid-5th century CE due to repeated invasions by the Huns from Central Asia. While rulers like Skandagupta initially repelled them, the constant warfare depleted imperial resources and fractured the decentralized administrative structure. By 550 CE, the Gupta imperial structure had dissolved into smaller, independent kingdoms. The quiet order of the Golden Age gave way to political fragmentation, yet the intellectual and religious foundation established during this period, particularly the consolidation of Hinduism, Puranic tradition, and the advances in science, remained the enduring legacy of the subcontinent. The extended period between 550 CE and 1206 CE is defined by political decentralization in the north and the concurrent establishment of powerful, enduring, and culturally productive empires in the Deccan and the South. The structure of power shifted from imperial unity to a pattern of localized, dynastic stability. In the north, following the final cessation of Gupta rule around 550 CE and the destabilization caused by the Hunan incursions, political authority fractured. For a brief period, an attempt at reconsolidation was made under Harshavardhana, Harsha, R. C. 606 to 647 C. of Kannauj. Harsha established an expansive kingdom that covered much of North India. His court was noted for its patronage of arts and literature, and his reign is documented by the detailed accounts of the Chinese Buddhist pilgrim Xuanzang. However, his centralized power dissolved rapidly after his death, confirming the inherent tendency towards regionalism. From the 8th century CE onward, North India was dominated by a geopolitical struggle known as the tripartite struggle. This involved three major dynasties vying for control of the resource-rich Gangetic heartland, particularly the city of Kannauj. The Pratiharas, or Gurjar Pratiharas, controlled western and central India. The Paulas controlled eastern India, Bengal, and Bihar, becoming major patrons of Mahayana Buddhism and the centers of learning at Nalanda and Vikramashala. The Rashtrakutas controlled the Deccan, often successfully mediating or intervening in the northern conflicts. This perpetual state of rivalry, while preventing stable pan-Indian rule, fueled the establishment of distinct regional identities and linguistic groups, e.g., the origins of modern Hindi, Bengali, and Marathi languages. It also channeled resources into defensive structures and the demonstration of power through the construction of monumental temples. Simultaneously, the South and the Deccan witnessed the peak of indigenous imperial power and cultural efflorescence, particularly in temple construction and naval strength. The Chalukyas and Rashtrakutas, Deccan, c. 6th to 10th century c. The early Chalukyas of Badami, c. 543 to 753 CE, and their successors, the Rashtrakutas, c. 753 to 982 CE, built powerful kingdoms that controlled the crucial trade routes between North and South. The Rashtrakutas, in particular, were instrumental in the tripartite struggle and were noted for their religious tolerance, patronizing Hinduism, Jainism, and Islam. The monolithic Kailasa temple at Ellora, carved out of a single rock face during the Rashtrakuta reign, remains a singular testament to their architectural ambition and engineering capacity. The Pallavas, Tamil Nadu, c. 3rd to 9th century CE, centered at Kanchipuram. The Pallavas were pioneers of South Indian temple architecture, transitioning from rock-cut temples, like the Shore Temple at Mamallapuram, to structural ones. Their influence extended into Southeast Asia, impacting architectural and political traditions in places like Java and Cambodia. The Cholas, Tamil Nadu, c. 9th to 13th century CE, the Chola dynasty achieved the most sustained imperial control in South India. They were remarkable for their centralized administrative efficiency, maintaining detailed revenue records, and a sophisticated system of local self-governance through village assemblies. The Chola state, under rulers like Rajaraja I, r. 985 to 1014 CE, and Rajendra I, r. 1014 to 1044 CE, developed an unparalleled naval force. Rajendra I successfully launched maritime expeditions across the Bay of Bengal, striking at the Srivijaya Empire in Southeast Asia. This control of the sea lanes established the Cholas as a major global trade power, facilitating the movement of goods and cultural influence across the Indian Ocean. Their crowning architectural achievement is the Brihadeeswarar Temple at Tanjavur, completed in 1010 CE, an immense structure demonstrating geometric precision and monumental scale. The closing centuries of this period from the 10th century CE onward, saw a new political force emerging from the northwest. The consolidation of Islamic political power in Central Asia, particularly the rise of the Ghaznavids, led to a new series of incursions. Mahmud of Ghazni conducted 17 destructive raids into North India between 1000 and 1027 CE. While his campaigns did not establish permanent territorial rule, they severely weakened the regional Hindu kingdoms, particularly the already struggling Pratiharas and the Hindu Shahi dynasty in the Punjab. The immense wealth extracted from temples like Somnath funded the Ghaznavid state, but irrevocably altered the balance of power in the north. The final decisive shift occurred with the Ghurids. In 1192 CE, Muhammad of Ghur defeated the Rajput coalition led by Prithviraj Chauhan at the Second Battle of Tarain. This victory marked the collapse of sustained indigenous political power in the Gangetic Plain and created the conditions necessary for the establishment of a new, lasting political entity centered in North India. By 1206 CE, following the assassination of Muhammad of Ghur, his general Qutb-ud-Din Aibak established independent rule in Delhi, formally inaugurating the Delhi Sultanate and introducing a new administrative, religious, and cultural dynamic to the subcontinent. The era of decentralized, regional Indian kingdoms, dominant for over 6 centuries, formally concluded, giving way to the era of Turco-Afghan rule. Did you know that the Delhi Sultanate, established by rulers of Turkic and Afghan origin, was one of the few states in the medieval world to repeatedly repel the Mongol Empire's western expansion, stabilizing the subcontinent's northern frontier for centuries? The period from 1206 CE to 1526 CE is a definitive era of political and cultural transformation, marked by the establishment and sustained control of the Delhi Sultanate in North India. This new governing structure, centered on a Turco-Afghan elite, fundamentally altered the political geography and administrative traditions of the subcontinent, while simultaneously triggering significant indigenous religious responses. The Sultanate was formally inaugurated in 1206 CE by Qutb-ud-Din Aibak, following the death of Muhammad of Ghur. Over the next 3 centuries, 5 distinct dynasties succeeded one another. The Mamluk slave dynasty, 1206 to 1290, the Khalji dynasty, 1290 to 1320, the Tughlaq dynasty, 1320 to 1414, the Sayyid dynasty, 1414 to 1451, and the Lodi dynasty, 1451 to 1526. The consolidation of the Sultanate was a process of persistent administrative innovation and military defense. Early rulers, such as Iltutmish, R. 1211 to 1236 C, stabilized the newly conquered territories and established Delhi as the true political capital. The Sultanate's most critical strategic contribution was its ability to consistently defend its borders against the Mongol armies of Genghis Khan and his successors, particularly during the 13th century. This defensive success prevented the devastating disruptions that afflicted Central Asia and West Asia, ensuring the continuous flow of trade and the relative internal stability necessary for sustained governance. The Sultanate's administrative framework was centered on the Iqta system, where land and revenue collection were assigned to military officers, iqtidars, in exchange for maintaining troops and law and order. This centralized military bureaucratic structure allowed the Sultanate to control vast resources and project power. The Khalji dynasty, under Alauddin Khalji, R. 1296 to 1316 C, marked the territorial zenith of the Sultanate. Khalji introduced radical economic reforms, including market regulations and price controls, primarily to maintain a large, standing army required for both internal control and defense against the Mongols. His armies, led by the general Malik Kafur, pushed deep into the Deccan, extracting immense wealth and reducing southern kingdoms like the Kakatiyas and Hoslas to tributary status, though not direct annexation. The Tughlaq period saw attempts at radical administrative change. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, r. 1325 to 1351 CE, is noted for several ambitious but ultimately destabilizing projects. The transfer of the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, Devagiri, in the Deccan, and the introduction of a token currency. The reign of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, r. 1351 to 1388 CE, focused on infrastructure, including the construction of canals for irrigation and the establishment of new cities and educational institutions. However, the immense territorial and logistical demands of the Sultanate proved unsustainable. By the end of the 14th century, powerful provincial governors began to assert independence. The most damaging event was the devastating raid by the Central Asian conqueror Tamerlane, who sacked Delhi in 1398 CE. The invasion momentarily fractured the centralized structure, leading to the rise of independent regional sultanates, such as the powerful kingdoms of Bengal, Gujarat, Malwa, and the Bahmani kingdom in the Deccan. In the south, the fragmentation following the Khalji raids led to the founding of the Vijayanagara Empire, 1336 to 1646 CE, a powerful and enduring indigenous kingdom that served as a center for South Indian culture and resistance to the northern sultanates. The city of Vijayanagara, documented by foreign visitors, was celebrated for its immense wealth, elaborate water systems, and monumental temple complexes. It acted as a necessary counterbalance to the power of the Deccan sultanates. Culturally, this era saw the definitive intermingling of Perso-Islamic and indigenous Indian traditions. New forms of architecture, characterized by the fusion of Iranian arch and dome forms with indigenous ornamentation, emerged in sultanate structures like the Qutb Minar complex. The formal language of Persian became the language of administration and high culture, influencing the structure and vocabulary of nascent North Indian languages. Most importantly, the perceived socio-religious pressures and the introduction of egalitarian Islamic ideas contributed to a profound internal spiritual resurgence known as the Bhakti movement and the emergence of Sufism. Bhakti movement, beginning in the south and spreading north, Bhakti emphasized intense, personal devotion, bhakti, to a single god, bypassing elaborate ritual and the intermediary role of the priesthood. Figures like Ramnanda, 14th century, and his disciple Kabir, 15th century, preached a message of universalism, questioning caste distinctions and external religious rites. The movement articulated itself through vernacular languages, making spiritual knowledge accessible to all classes and women. Sufism, Islamic mysticism, or Sufism, developed parallel to Bhakti. Sufi saints, peers, adopted local customs and communicated in local dialects, emphasizing spiritual love, tolerance, and direct communion with God. The interaction between Sufis and Bhakti saints often led to syncretic practices and mutual influence, fostering a shared spiritual language among the common people that quietly transcended political and religious divides. The final dynasty of the Sultanate, the Lodi, was ultimately weakened by internal dissension and the challenges posed by powerful Afghan nobles. The inevitable shift in power came with the invasion of Babur, the ruler of Fergana, who defeated the last Lodi Sultan, Ibrahim Lodi, at the First Battle of Panipat in 1526 CE. This decisive military engagement utilized gunpowder artillery for the first time on a large scale in India, ending the Delhi Sultanate and inaugurating the era of the Mughal Empire. The period from 1526 CE to 1707 CE represents a sustained era of imperial centralization under the Mughal Empire, established by a succession of competent rulers of Turco-Mongol origin. This empire brought vast territorial expanse under a single, highly refined bureaucratic system, fostering an unprecedented level of political, economic, and cultural integration across the subcontinent. The empire began with Zayn Muhammad Babur, who defeated the Lodi Sultanate at the First Battle of Panipat in 1526 CE. Babur and his son, Humayun, are 1530 to 1540, 1555 to 1556 CE, spent the early years consolidating their hold against persistent local resistance, notably from the Afghan ruler Shah Suri, who briefly deposed Humayun and introduced significant administrative reforms that the Mughals later adopted. The true architect of the empire was Akbar the Great, r. 1556 to 1605 CE. Akbar inherited a precarious kingdom and transformed it into a stable, enduring state. His success rested on a policy of strategic conciliation and administrative ingenuity. Military and administrative system. Akbar formalized the Mansabdari system, a graded hierarchy where every military and civil officer, Mansabdar, was assigned a rank based on the number of cavalrymen they were required to maintain. This system ensured military loyalty to the emperor and standardized the military bureaucratic relationship. Land revenue. He adopted the revenue reforms of Raja Todarmal, establishing the Zabt or Dasilis system. This standardized system calculated land revenue based on the average yield of crops over 10 years and fixed the payment in cash, ensuring predictable, reliable income for the state. Religious policy. Akbar pursued a radical policy of religious tolerance, integrating Hindu Rajput nobility into the highest ranks of the administration and military. Crucially, he abolished the discriminatory pilgrimage tax, jizya, on non-Muslims and promoted the concept of sul-i-kul, universal peace, fostering an intellectual environment where scholars from all faiths, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, and Jain, were encouraged to debate in his Ibadat Khana, house of worship, at Fatehpur Sikri. The reigns of Jahangir are 1605 to 1627 CE, and Shah Jahan, r. 1628 to 1658 CE, marked the empire's cultural and architectural zenith. During this period, Mughal miniature painting reached its classical maturity, blending Persian and Indian styles. Shah Jahan, in particular, was an unparalleled builder, using immense state resources to construct the Red Fort and Jama Masjid in Delhi and the Taj Mahal in Agra, a monumental tomb representing the perfect symmetry and refinement of Indo-Islamic architecture. This era also saw the first significant, though localized, engagement with European trading companies, which were initially welcomed primarily for maritime trade and access to commodities. The empire reached its greatest territorial extent under Aurangzeb, r. 1658 to 1707 CE. He reversed many of Akbar's policies, notably reimposing the jizya tax and adopting a more orthodox religious posture. His extensive and costly military campaigns, especially his decades-long attempts to annex the Deccan Sultanates and subdue the rising Maratha power under Chhatrapati Shivaji, strained the empire's financial and administrative resources to their breaking point. The Deccan Wars, while successful in destroying the remaining independent sultanates, failed to establish lasting Mughal administrative control over the immense territory. The protracted warfare created a vast drain on the treasury, disrupted the smooth functioning of the Mansabdari and Jagirdari assignment of land revenue systems, and energized the Maratha and other regional opponents, who utilized guerrilla tactics effectively against the large, centralized Mughal army. By the time of Aurangzeb's death in 1707 CE, the Mughal Empire was territorially maximal but institutionally exhausted. The excessive centralization and military overreach led to systemic flaws. The Jagirdari crisis, where there were more officers, Mansabdars, seeking revenue assignments, Jagirs, than there were assignable lands. Peasant revolts sparked by high revenue demands, and the rise of autonomous regional powers. The centralized, structured stability of the Mughal era enabled an unprecedented economic expansion. India became the world's largest producer of manufactured goods, particularly textiles and sugar, attracting global merchants. The efficient system of highways and revenue collection facilitated internal trade. However, the over-reliance on a single, powerful emperor and the failure to reform the land assignment system ultimately meant that the immense wealth generated by the empire could not sustain the institutional strains imposed by Aurangzeb's protracted military expansion. The quiet, inevitable decline of the great Mughals set the stage for the political fragmentation of the 18th century and the increasing intervention of European trading interests. The period from 1707 CE to 1818 CE is a complex century of quiet but decisive political realignment. The death of Aurangzeb in 1707 CE marked the end of sustained centralized authority in India. The ensuing period is characterized by the weakening of the central Mughal court and the simultaneous assertion of political independence by various regional governors, often referred to as the successor states. This political fragmentation created a vacuum that foreign trading powers, particularly the British, would gradually and methodically exploit. The decline of the central imperial court was structural and financial. The administrative machinery, designed for a strong emperor, failed under a succession of weak later Mughal rulers. The Jagirdari crisis worsened, with land revenue assignments failing to match the demands of the nobility, leading to internal rivalries and provincial governors retaining revenue locally instead of remitting it to Delhi. Three types of powerful regional entities emerged in this environment. Successor states. These were provinces whose Mughal governors, subaddars, declared de facto independence, while often maintaining a nominal allegiance to the Mughal emperor. Examples include Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. These rulers established local dynastic control and utilized existing Mughal administrative and fiscal structures. New states, indigenous powers, these were entities established by revolting subject groups who were previously marginalized by the Mughal system. The most significant of these were the Marathas, who carved out a vast confederacy across central and western India, posing the most significant indigenous challenge to the Mughals and later, the British. The Sikhs organized themselves into powerful misls, confederacies, in the Punjab, and the Jats established local control around the region of Agra. Independent kingdoms. These were established indigenous kingdoms, like the Rajputs and the new, powerful state of Mysore under Hyder Ali and his son, Tipu Sultan, who skillfully adopted European military organization and technology. The Maratha Confederacy became the dominant indigenous power by the mid-18th century. Under the Peshwas, chief ministers, based in Pune, the Marathas expanded their influence across north, central, and eastern India, exacting tribute, chauth and sardashmukhi, from various regional rulers. Their expansion was momentarily halted, but not reversed by a decisive defeat against an invading Afghan army, led by Ahmad Shah Abdali, at the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761 CE. This battle shattered Maratha unity and prevented them from replacing the Mughals as the central imperial power, but it did not eliminate them. Against this backdrop of continuous internal warfare and shifting alliances, the European trading companies, the Portuguese, Dutch, French, and British, transitioned from mere commercial entities to political military actors. The British East India Company, EAC, originally chartered in 1600 CE for trade, began to systematically interfere in regional politics, initially by offering military assistance and naval power in exchange for exclusive trading rights. The pivotal turning point was the Battle of Plassey in 1757 CE. The EIC, under Robert Clive, defeated the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, through political conspiracy and the betrayal of the Nawab general, Mir Jafar. This victory gave the EIC effective control over the immense revenues of Bengal, the richest province of the Mughal Empire. The wealth extracted from Bengal was subsequently used to fund the EIC's growing army, allowing it to compete militarily with other Indian and European powers. The EIC solidified its political dominance over the Ganges heartland with the Battle of Buxar in 1764 CE, where its disciplined army decisively defeated the combined forces of the Nawab of Awadh, the Nawab of Bengal, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. The ensuing Treaty of Allahabad in 1765 CE granted the EIC the Diwani, right to collect revenue, of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. This moment legally transformed the EIC from a trading body into the virtual sovereign of a vast territory. Over the next decades, the EIC engaged in a series of calculated wars against the remaining strong indigenous powers. The four Anglo-Mysore Wars, 1767 to 1799, culminating in the defeat and death of Tipu Sultan, led to the annexation of Mysore and EIC control over South India. The three Anglo-Maratha Wars, 1775 to 1818, which resulted in the final defeat of the Peshwa and the absorption of the Maratha Confederacy's vast territories into the EIC domain. The last of these wars, concluding in 1818 CE, definitively established the British East India Company as the paramount power across the entire Indian subcontinent, a gradual, inevitable process achieved through superior organization, financial strength, and the continuous political fragmentation of its rivals. By the close of this period, the EIC had established a structured administrative system, primarily focused on revenue extraction, laying the foundation for the eventual British Raj. The era of indigenous power, which had flourished briefly in the post-Mughal void, had been strategically and systematically superseded by the growing machinery of a foreign corporate power. The period from 1818 CE to 1858 CE is the definitive era of the Company Raj, a time characterized by the systematic establishment of British economic, legal, and administrative supremacy, coupled with accelerating social and technological change. The East India Company, EIC, transitioned from being a major regional power to the paramount authority, focusing its efforts on rigorous economic extraction and cultural intervention. The EIC's primary objective remained the maximization of revenue and commercial advantage. This necessitated the establishment of rigid land revenue settlements, which fundamentally altered agrarian relations. Three major systems were implemented. Permanent settlement, 1793 CE, introduced in Bengal. This system fixed the land revenue demand in perpetuity, transferring ownership rights to a new class of intermediaries, the zamindars. While providing a stable, guaranteed income for the EIC, it impoverished the peasantry and fostered a new class of loyal absentee landlords. Ryotwari system, implemented in Madras and Bombay. This system established a direct relationship between the EIC and the individual cultivator, ryot, but the revenue demand was often set excessively high and was subject to periodic revision, leading to widespread indebtedness among farmers. Mahawari system, used in the Gangetic Valley. This system treated the village, mahal, or a group of villages as the unit for revenue settlement. These systems, combined with the promotion of commercial cash crops like indigo and cotton at the expense of subsistence farming, led to the widespread disruption of traditional village economies and increasing financial vulnerability for the vast majority of the population. Simultaneously, the imposition of free trade policies systematically dismantled India's indigenous handicraft and textile industries, which could not compete with mass-produced, machine-made goods for Britain. India rapidly shifted from being the world's leading exporter of manufactured goods to a supplier of raw materials and a market for British finished products. The EIC solidified its control through a doctrine of political annexation. The doctrine of lapse, devised by Governor-General Lord Dalhousie, R. 1848 to 1856 c. decreed that any princely state whose ruler died without a direct male heir would be automatically annexed by the EIC. This aggressive policy, used to seize kingdoms like Satara, Jhansi, and Nagpur, directly threatened the sovereignty of the remaining Indian princes and generated intense anxiety among the ruling elite. Parallel to economic and political consolidation, the mid-19th century witnessed deliberate social and infrastructural interventions. The British introduced a Western-style education system, formalized with the Macaulay Minute, 1835 c., aiming to create a class of Indians, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. While controversial, this system inadvertently provided a common language, English, and a shared set of intellectual concepts for future generations of political leaders. Technological advancements fundamentally altered the physical landscape. The first railway line was opened in 1853 CE, and the electric telegraph network was rapidly expanded. These innovations, intended primarily for military transport, strategic control, and resource movement, simultaneously shrank the subcontinent, making political coordination and communication faster than ever before. The accumulated discontents, economic exploitation, aggressive annexations, interference in religious customs, such as the ban on sati, and the pervasive sense of foreign domination, culminated in the Great Revolt of 1857. The revolt began on May 10, 1857, when sepoys, Indian soldiers, in the EIC Army at Meerut mutinied. While the immediate trigger was the introduction of new rifle cartridges rumored to be greased with cow and pig fat, the underlying causes were political and socio-economic. The revolt rapidly spread across north and central India, becoming a widespread civil insurrection in regions like Awadh and Bihar. Key leaders of the rebellion included the deposed ruler of Jhansi, Rani Lakshmibai, Nana Sahib in Kanpur, and Kunwar Singh. The rebellion was characterized by moments of intense, localized violence and a brief attempt to restore the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, as a symbol of united resistance. However, the revolt lacked centralized leadership, unified goals, and coordination. The EIC, with the loyalty of forces from the Punjab, Madras, and Bombay, systematically suppressed the rebellion through brutal force over the course of more than a year. The revolt of 1857 was a definitive historical punctuation mark. While ultimately unsuccessful, it exposed the depth of resentment against company rule. The direct political consequence was swift and permanent. The British Parliament passed the Government of India Act of 1858, formally dissolving the East India Company and transferring the administration of India directly to the British Crown. The Company Raj, driven by commercial objectives, gave way to the direct rule of the British Crown, the British Raj, a more formally imperial structure. This shift inaugurated a new phase of governance, marked by increased bureaucratic control and a formal commitment to the stability of the remaining princely states. Did you know that after 1858, the British Crown, fearing further revolt, intentionally created separate educational, economic, and political systems to govern India, a strategy that paradoxically nurtured the very idea of a unified Indian nation? The period from 1858 CE to 1939 CE is the era of the British Raj, Crown rule, characterized by direct imperial administration, extensive infrastructural modernization, and the slow, deliberate rise of organized Indian nationalism. The British government formally replaced the East India Company, establishing the Queen as the Empress of India, a transformation that aimed for stability through control and systematic governance. The governance structure was highly centralized. The Secretary of State for India in London headed the administration, advised by the India Council. In India, the Viceroy acted as the monarch's representative. A deliberate policy known as the divide and rule strategy was utilized, focusing on creating distinctions among different religious and social groups, primarily to fragment potential unified opposition. The Indian Civil Service, ICS, overwhelmingly British, formed the steel frame of the administration, ensuring bureaucratic continuity and rigorous control over policy implementation. Economically, India's role was strictly defined as a colonial appendage. The massive investment in railways, telegraphs, and ports was designed to facilitate the rapid export of raw materials, cotton, jute, tea, oilseeds, and the efficient distribution of British manufactured goods throughout the interior. This drain of wealth, as articulated by early nationalist thinkers like Dadabhai Naoroji, resulted in capital outflows that continually deprived India of the resources needed for its own industrialization and development, leading to chronic rural poverty and recurrent famines. Paradoxically, the unifying factors established by the Raj, a common administrative structure, a common language of discourse, English among the elite, and a rapid, integrated communications network, provided the necessary material base for a unified political movement. The beginning of organized nationalism is marked by the founding of the Indian National Congress, Inc., in 1885 CE. Initially, the Inc. was a moderate, elite-driven body, advocating for greater Indian representation in the legislative councils and administrative services, engaging in what was termed constitutional agitation. Early leaders, primarily educated professionals, believed in the British sense of justice and focused on petitions and reasoned arguments. By the early 20th century, the nationalist movement fractured into moderate and extremist wings. Leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak advocated for a more confrontational approach, stressing Swaraj, self-rule, as the birthright of Indians, and utilizing religious and cultural symbols to mobilize the masses. A key turning point was the partition of Bengal in 1905 CE by a viceroy, Lord Curzon. Intended officially as an administrative reorganization, it was widely perceived as a deliberate political strategy to divide the politically active Bengali population along religious lines, Hindu and Muslim. The resulting Swadeshi movement saw widespread boycotts of British goods and the promotion of indigenous industries, marking the first large-scale, mass-based resistance to British rule. The growing political awareness led the British to introduce limited constitutional reforms. Minto Morley Reforms, Indian Councils Act, 1909, this introduced the principle of separate electorates for Muslims, a move that formally institutionalized the communal divide in politics. Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, Government of India Act, 1919, these reforms introduced diarchy, dual governance, in the provinces, dividing administrative subjects between elected Indian ministers and appointed British executive councillors. The arrival of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi from South Africa in 1915 CE permanently transformed the nature of the freedom struggle. Gandhi introduced the strategy of satyagraha, truth force, or nonviolent resistance, shifting the movement's focus from the elite drawing rooms to the villages and masses. His early, successful interventions in local movements, such as the Champaran, 1917, and Kheda, 1918, satyagrahas, solidified his leadership and unique methodology. The shock of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in 1919 CE, where British troops opened fire on a peaceful gathering in Amritsar, irrevocably alienated moderate Indian opinion and solidified the resolve of the nationalist movement to demand fundamental change. The non-cooperation movement, 1920 to 1922, led by Gandhi, involved the mass surrender of titles, boycott of courts, schools, and foreign cloth, marking the first truly countrywide mass political mobilization. Although withdrawn after the violence at Chauri Chaura, it demonstrated the potential power of nonviolent collective action. The period closed with the British responding to the persistent political pressure with the Government of India Act of 1935. This act, which provided for provincial autonomy and proposed a federation of all Indian states, laid the procedural framework for future constitutional governance. Despite nationalist rejection of its centralized features, it led to provincial elections in 1937, where the Congress ministries formed governments in most provinces, giving them their first taste of administrative power and demonstrating their mass mandate. By the eve of the Second World War in 1939 CE, the question was no longer if India would achieve self-rule, but when and how. The machinery of centralized control was now confronted by a unified, organized, and morally powerful indigenous political movement. The final phase of India's long historical narrative, spanning from 1939 CE to the present, is a story of accelerating momentum. The struggle for independence, the trauma of partition, and the measured construction of a modern democratic republic. This era is characterized by political achievement, enduring geopolitical challenges, and profound internal development. The outbreak of World War II in September 1939 irrevocably altered the political landscape. The Viceroy, Lord Linlithgow, declared India a participant in the war without consulting the elected Indian representatives. In protest, the Congress ministries resigned in the provinces, marking a definitive break with the limited constitutional process established by the 1935 Act. The Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, utilized this opportunity to consolidate its political position, formally passing the Lahore Resolution in 1940, which demanded the establishment of separate Muslim-majority states in the Northwest and Northeast. As the war progressed, and the threat of a Japanese invasion loomed, the British attempted to secure Indian cooperation. Following the failure of the Cripps mission in 1942, which offered Dominion status after the war in exchange for immediate support, the Congress launched its final major resistance movement, the Quit India Movement, 1942. Key Congress leaders were immediately imprisoned, leading to spontaneous, widespread, and often violent mass protests across the country. The war's conclusion in 1945 found Britain financially depleted and globally weakened, making the continuation of direct imperial rule economically and politically unsustainable. The newly elected Labour government in Britain committed to a rapid transfer of power. However, the political situation in India was now irrevocably defined by the communal question. The failure of the final British cabinet mission in 1946 to devise a constitutional formula acceptable to both Congress and the Muslim League confirmed the inevitability of partition. Jinnah called for Direct Action Day, August 1946, leading to widespread communal violence that tragically demonstrated the urgency and necessity of a political solution, however painful. The final Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, advanced the date of independence and finalized the plan for the division of British India into two sovereign states, the Secular Union of India and the Islamic Dominion of Pakistan. The final act of imperial cessation occurred on August 15, 1947. This political triumph was immediately stained by the massive communal carnage and the largest mass migration in human history, as an estimated 14 million people were displaced across the newly drawn borders, and hundreds of thousands perished. The newly formed Republic of India faced the immense task of consolidating the fragmented political landscape, successfully integrating the hundreds of remaining princely states into the Indian Union, a process largely managed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. The political framework was solidified with the adoption of the Constitution of India on January 26, 1950, establishing a sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic based on the principles of parliamentary democracy, fundamental rights, and a federal structure. The first decades of the republic were dominated by the vision of its first prime minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, R. 1947 to 1964. His policy focus was on three pillars: non-alignment, steering clear of both the US and Soviet blocs in the Cold War, championing the voice of newly independent nations. Planned economy, adopting a mixed economic model with central planning via 5-year plans to promote rapid industrialization, often emphasizing state-controlled heavy industries. Secularism and democracy, ensuring the survival of a diverse, multilingual state through universal suffrage and institutional checks. India faced immediate geopolitical challenges, notably the Indo-Pakistani War of 1947-48 over Kashmir, the Sino-Indian War of 1962 over border disputes, and subsequent major conflicts with Pakistan in 1965 and 1971, which led to the creation of Bangladesh. The continuous need for military preparedness has been a persistent feature of the subcontinent's post-independence history. Since the late 1980s, India's economic trajectory has shifted significantly. The severe financial crisis in 1991 prompted the government to initiate sweeping economic liberalization and structural reforms, dismantling the highly regulated license Raj. This shift opened the economy to foreign investment, reduced state control, and integrated India more closely with the global economic system. The subsequent decades have seen sustained high rates of economic growth, particularly in the service sector, e.g., IT, raising India's global economic profile. In the 21st century, India continues to grapple with the complexities of its massive population, diverse regional identities, and the need for inclusive economic growth. The country maintains its status as the world's most populous democracy, a testament to the enduring strength of the institutions established in the early republic. From the silent, planned cities of the Indus Valley to the complex, functioning democracy of the present, the history of India is one of profound continuity, adaptation, and an enduring capacity to absorb external influences while maintaining a singular, distinct civilizational identity.